Okay. Well, I hope everyone can hear me and see me. So in the big, oh wait, let me move this a little back. So welcome. I'm Olga, and this is Mindful Flow Yoga. And with that, I invite you to maybe find like a position, a shape to make of your body that is kind of comfortable. I'm actually going to start sitting down, but maybe you want to sit in a chair, maybe you want to stand. You know, there's no like right or wrong way. And then as you make your way to how you want to start your practice, the invitation is to maybe move around, like wiggle around to see if you could get like 2% more comfortable. Maybe you have some blocks with you or some books, some cushions. Maybe you want to sit on that. And as you do that, you have a choice. Maybe you want to keep on moving, kind of wiggling around, or maybe you want to find stillness for a moment. So I like to start our practices by just taking a couple of moments to like check in to see how are you doing. You could close your eyes or keep them open and maybe just noticing how are you feeling in this moment. So just kind of giving yourself the opportunity to come out of like doing and thinking and rushing and into just being. Maybe you're being in stillness, maybe you're moving your body. And depending on what you're doing with your body, you may notice some sensation. Maybe you feel your body where it makes contact with the surface below you. So for me, that's like the sides of my feet, my sit bones. So maybe feeling into that, the points of contact of where your body is meeting the ground, the earth. And can you sense or feel that surface as it kind of holds you up, as it supports you and your body? Maybe starting to notice if you could hear sounds, the sound of my voice, or maybe there's some other sounds around you. And if you're interested, you might begin to notice your breath. And you don't have to change how you're breathing. Maybe just notice that you're breathing and just kind of noticing or feeling even how it is when your breath moves in and out of your body. And if you'd like, you could begin to follow your exhale to your inner landscape. So like the inside of your body. And maybe noticing any sensations, feelings, emotions. Maybe there's like an energy level, like are you tired or excited? And just knowing that whatever you find, it's all perfectly welcome. You don't have to change it or fix it or get rid of it. What would it be like to just kind of notice or get curious about it? Yeah. And with that, if your eyes were closed, you might start to open them. And if you're in stillness, maybe starting to move your body. So the first invitation is to maybe start moving your spine and contraction and extension. So kind of arching your spine and rounding it. And you could choose here, right? You're in charge. This is your yoga practice. So you're welcome to choose the tempo, the size of this movement. And another layer, another option here could be to add your arms. So maybe as you arch your back, you might bring your arms open wide, kind of like wings, and then kind of curling it in. And another option here, perhaps, could be to add your breath. So kind of synchronizing your movement with your breath. You might inhale as you open through your chest and exhale as you round. And you could stay with your natural breath, perhaps, or maybe a long breath in, a longer breath out. You might even add some sound as you exhale. But knowing that everything I say or show is just a suggestion, right? Your choice is more important than doing something. And you could kind of continue with this movement. Or another option could be, or the next invitation is to start moving your spine towards the side. So kind of introducing a side bend. So you might reach one arm towards the ceiling and maybe reaching it over to either side of your body. We'll do both, right? So it doesn't matter which side. And again, here you have a choice. You could be in stillness, or another option could be to add some movement here. So maybe moving from center over to the side. Perhaps moving in the same time as me, the same rhythm, or maybe finding your own mindful flow, your own kind of rhythm. And changing sides whenever you're ready. And another invitation here is to maybe allow this to feel good, right? So perhaps moving your body in a way that feels okay, maybe pleasant. And maybe switching sides one more time. So you can make this yours, right? So like yoga isn't about like achieving, at least mindful flow yoga, it's not about achieving any goals, but kind of like exploring your body, what you feel in the present moment. So making your way back to center whenever you're ready. And if you'd like to explore one more spinal movement, maybe starting to make this kind of circular motion. And you're welcome to make this circular movement in one direction, maybe changing sides at any time. And again, you can make this yours. And another option you could do here is perhaps notice if you find, or if you notice, any like pockets of tension in your body. And you could perhaps just bring your awareness there, or you could take the opportunity to maybe pause anywhere along the way in this movement. Perhaps sending your breath to this part of you. Or maybe you just want to keep on moving. That's fine too. And then from here, the next invitation is to maybe free your legs. Maybe say hello to your legs. So depending on if you were sitting the whole time like me, or maybe your legs got a little numb, mine did. So maybe just like saying hi, hello feet, hello calves, hello legs. So often we could sometimes forget that we even have legs. So today I will be kind of inviting you to notice your feet, your calves, your thighs. And with that, the invitation is to place your feet on the ground, your knees facing up, and maybe your hands somewhere behind you, so you could like choose the distance. And here, you might begin to notice like the two directions in which your muscles might be activating. So maybe noticing your feet and your legs kind of pressing into the ground, and your hands, so it's kind of like moving downward, and at the same time maybe lifting up through the heart. And from here, you're welcome to stay like this, or another option could be to maybe lift one of your feet. And the second choice might be to add both feet, right? So into this kind of like boat pose. And wherever you are, maybe noticing if there's some sensation in the top part of your legs, maybe starting to feel some heat or some contraction in your belly or the core muscles. And then kind of letting that go for a moment. Maybe saying hi to your legs again. And if you're interested, you could explore that one more time with me. If not, maybe just kind of chilling. So this time, perhaps again with your hands behind you, or another option could be to bring your hands somewhere in front of you. So you're welcome to stay here. Maybe just noticing your feet as they press into the ground. Maybe noticing which muscles are kind of activating to support you in this shape. And if you'd like, you could stay here or maybe lifting your feet off the ground any amount. Maybe noticing your breath here and the muscles around your jaw, your forehead. And maybe noticing if you could feel that lift through your heart. Maybe there's some heat around your belly, the top part of your legs. Yeah, I feel alive. Yeah, and knowing that you're always welcome to pause at any time for any reason throughout this practice. And the next invitation is to guide yourself back into child's pose. So you might have your knees together, maybe they're further apart. And inviting your heart and forehead to kind of come down towards the mat. And just taking a couple of moments here to pause, to kind of integrate, to let the mind and body catch up. Maybe to allow your body to kind of receive and absorb all the things we've just did. And you're welcome to kind of chill here for however long you'd like. And when you feel ready, you might begin to start moving again by rounding through your spine, kind of like a cat, and then arching back. So it's like a cat and cow wave. And if you're interested, the invitation is to repeat this movement a couple of times. So maybe rounding forward, arching back. You could add your breath here. So that might be an inhale as you go forward, exhaling back. And as you do that, you have another choice. So you're welcome to stay with this guided movement, or you might perhaps notice if there's impulse in your body to move a different way. So perhaps finding a little bit of organic movement. So organic movement is movement that's not planned. So instead of thinking, how should I move? It's kind of just going along with what your body is kind of asking for. Perhaps what your body wants to do. Maybe what feels good, right? So you might let that be your northern star in this practice. What story is my body telling? And what feels good? And then from here, whenever you're ready, you might make your way back to center into tabletop. And the next invitation is for some guided movement. So you might start to lift your right leg up and making some hip circles. You could choose if you want to do these circles forward, maybe backward, or perhaps exploring both, right? So this is it's up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And as you move your leg, you might be noticing some sensation. Maybe somewhere in your leg, in your belly. And another option here could be to perhaps explore this with your leg straight. So maybe exploring this, taking some time to play around with it. And whenever you're ready, the invitation is to bring your leg back and to kind of pulse your heel up towards the ceiling. And you might notice that there's an arch in your spine here. So kind of keeping that arch. And from here, with that arch in the low back, you might begin to bring your knee towards your belly and then back. So the invitation is to repeat this a couple of times. And another way to do this could be the more traditional way. So when you bring your knee towards your belly, you might begin to round your back and then kind of coming back. You could synchronize this with your breath, maybe inhaling up, exhaling down. And whenever you're ready, straightening your right leg behind you, and then perhaps finding this kind of rocking movement. So kind of rocking back and forth. Perhaps noticing some sensation in like the back part of your leg as you do that, somewhere in the calf. Maybe noticing your connection to the ground and to gravity, like which parts of your body, which muscles are kind of working right now to support you. And from here, on your next breath in and out, the invitation is to walk your hands towards the center of the mat as you bring your left shin towards the left. And you might kind of explore, oh, you can't see. Let me move. You might explore with your foot being pointed or flexed, your right foot. And from here, you're welcome to stay as you are. And another option could be to start to lift your right arm up towards the ceiling and then kind of scooping it down. Maybe inhaling as you reach, exhaling as you come down. And you could stay with your natural breath, or maybe a long breath in, a longer breath out. Maybe adding some sound, maybe like a sigh wants to come out. And in your own time, the invitation is to make your way back to tabletop. Maybe finding a little bit of wiggling, some organic movement here. And from here, going over to the other side, if you'd like, starting to make some circles with your left leg. And you may not remember exactly what you did on the right side. I know I don't. And just knowing that it's perfectly okay. So the invitation is to maybe get to know the story of your left leg, your left hip, and what is it needing in this moment? Like, what is the tempo? What is the size of movement that your leg wants to do? Maybe you're exploring this with your bent leg, with your bent knee, or maybe your knee is straight. And perhaps it feels different on this side, and that's perfectly okay. And then in your own time, inviting your left leg back, and then finding that pulsing again. So kind of pulsing your heel towards the ceiling. And as you do that, keeping the arch in your low back, and like we did on the other side, maybe starting to bring your knee towards your belly, and then back. And as you repeat this movement, perhaps noticing that transition. So how does it feel when you bring your knee towards you, when the muscles contract, and how does it feel when you bring your leg back? And perhaps exploring this with a round back. So maybe rounding as you bring your knee towards you, and then arching back. And then whenever you feel like that is done for you, extending your left leg behind, and again, finding that rocking movement. And in your own time, you might begin to walk your hands over to the center of the mat as your shin turns towards the right. Let me turn this way. And perhaps playing with your left foot. So does it want to point or flex? And you're welcome to stay as you are or adding movement. So that's always your choice, right? Maybe lifting your left arm up towards the ceiling and then kind of curling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Maybe letting what feels good be your northern star. And whenever you're ready, maybe starting to make your way back into child's pose. Perhaps pausing for a couple of moments, a couple of breaths. Just letting your mind and body take that in. And in your own time, you might begin to come back to tabletop. And this time, tucking your toes and lifting your heels up to downward facing dog. And in your down dog, you could explore maybe with your knees bent. Perhaps your knees are straight, or maybe you want to walk your dog, so just kind of like bending and straightening your knees. So again, it's an invitation to kind of explore what your body kind of wants, needs, and letting what you feel in your body help you choose, right? So there's no like better or worse way to do yoga. There's only your way, and you are in charge here. And then on your next breath in and out, you might begin to roll your spine forward, this time to high plank. And then releasing your knees, chest, and chin down onto the mat. And perhaps a couple of rolling cobras here. So you might start to roll your spine up and then kind of coming on down. Maybe inhaling as you roll up, exhaling down. And perhaps one more time. And then kind of pausing. But pausing in Sphinx. So the invitation is to bring your forearms onto the mat. Maybe rolling your shoulders back, bringing your shoulder blades toward each other. And the first choice is perhaps staying as you are in stillness. Or another option could be to introduce some movement. So you might begin to round your chin towards your chest as you kind of spread your shoulder blades, rounding your upper back. And then maybe coming back. And so the invitation is to maybe explore this a couple of times. And perhaps noticing that transition. So what is it like when you come from rounded to arched, maybe feeling some sensation in your belly and your core. Another layer here, if you'd like to explore, could be starting to lift your hips up as you round and then releasing it down. Whew. Maybe one more moment here. And then as you're ready, on your next breath in and out, kind of pressing back into downward facing dog. Choosing your dog. Maybe noticing if you could feel more weight of your body kind of in your hands or in your feet. Maybe noticing the texture of the mat. And another thing you could play around with here is maybe lifting your head for a moment and seeing what it's like when you intentionally kind of lower it down, saying hello to gravity. And then in your own time, stepping or hopping towards your hands and then pausing for another moment or two here in the standing forward fold. You could be in stillness, or perhaps there's like an impulse to maybe rock from side to side. Again, maybe noticing your feet as they kind of press into the ground. Maybe noticing the back of your head and your shoulders. And then in your own time, making your way up. Maybe starting to roll all the way up to standing. And the invitation is to pause for a moment or two here. So we've been on the mat for a while. So just kind of orienting to what it's like as you stand. And again, maybe noticing that energy or the activation, the engagement of your legs. You might bend your knees for a moment. So noticing your legs, the muscles in your legs as they kind of hold your body up. And then I'm going to offer a bit of standing movement that might go into some balancing if you'd like. You could always hold on to a wall. So keeping that engagement in your legs. The invitation is to lift your arms up over your head and then starting to come into a side bend, kind of like what we did in the beginning when we were sitting. So you could choose how much you want to bend towards the side. It's up to you. And you're welcome to stay like this, or another option could be to maybe start to lift up the opposite leg to which you're bending any amount. Woo. So maybe you come up on your tiptoes, maybe you lift your foot up, right? And then in your own time, kind of coming back to center. Taking a moment to notice if there's a difference between your left and right side body. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And then kind of reaching up and over to the other side. And as you reach or as you bend towards the side, maybe noticing if you could still feel that engagement in your legs as they kind of support you in your balance. And you're welcome to stay here, or maybe coming up onto your tiptoes with your opposite leg. Maybe bringing it up any amount. Woo! And then kind of coming back to center. You might shake that out. And the invitation is to perhaps explore this one more time. But this time you might make it more dynamic if you want. You could do the same thing that we just did, or perhaps seeing what it's like kind of moving from side to side. So whenever you're ready, the invitation is to reach your arms up and then over to either side, choosing what you do with that opposite leg, and then kind of like a tree blowing in the wind, moving from side to side. And you could move with me, right? Perhaps synchronizing with me, or you might find your own rhythm here, your own mindful flow. Whew. And noticing, what does it feel like when you allow yourself to kind of move in your own rhythm? Maybe synchronizing this with your breath. You might inhale center, exhale to the side. And then when you feel like this is complete for you, you might come back to center. Perhaps taking an intentional breath or two. And I will offer one more balancing thing. This time it's a kind of flamingo shape. So the invitation is to bring the weight of your body onto, let's say, your left leg, right? And then lifting your right leg up any amount. So kind of like a flamingo. And this is the first choice, right? You're welcome to kind of chill here. Or another option could be to maybe start to round your spine down towards your leg any amount. And then kind of coming up. So you might inhale as you open through your chest and exhale as you curl down. And if you notice some wobbling, or if you fall out, just knowing that it's perfectly okay, right? Yoga is not about being perfect, or there's no goals to achieve. It's a exploration, right? And it could be playful. It could be fun. It could be weird and silly. So maybe allowing yourself to have some fun. And then letting go of that. You might check in to see how are your legs feeling. And then if you want, doing that one last time on the other side. So perhaps bringing the weight of your body onto your other leg. And then maybe lifting your flamingo leg up. And you're welcome to choose here, right? Woo! You're welcome to choose. Do you want to stay in stillness, right? Is your flamingo just kind of chilling? Or is your flamingo flying? So if you want to fly, maybe opening your heart and your wings, and then kind of rounding in towards your leg. And you're welcome to make this movement your own, right? So depending on what you feel, just kind of tailoring it to your needs. And perhaps noticing if you could feel the connection of that standing leg. What is your standing leg doing to support you in balance? Noticing your breath. And then you might let that go. And the invitation is to bring your hands flat across your heart. And if it feels authentic, perhaps finding like a kind word to yourself, to your body, to your mind, right? For whatever just happened. Even if it wasn't perfect, right? Yeah. And whenever you'd like to continue your movement practice, or some guided movement, the invitation is to reach your arms up towards the ceiling and then kind of making your way down towards a forward fold, perhaps halfway, or maybe you bring your hands onto the mat. And as you inhale, lifting your heart. And as you exhale, stepping back into downward facing dog. And you have a choice here. Perhaps repeating what we did before by rolling to plank and releasing your knees, chest, and heart down. Or perhaps from plank, maybe lowering in one piece. So it's up to you, right? And when you reach the ground, maybe some rolling cobra. So you might inhale as you roll up, exhale down. Maybe rolling up for cobra. Again, it's up to you how high you lift. And then in your own time, meeting back in downward facing dog. Maybe feeling your inhale. Maybe finishing your exhale. Maybe coming into your body. Noticing any thoughts coming and going. Are they kind thoughts or unkind thoughts? Knowing that it's all welcome here, right? And in your own time, you might look in between your hands, either step or hop, and then kind of rolling up to cobra, to mountain. Yeah. And as you're ready, the invitation is to bring the weight of your body onto your right leg and to come into that flamingo shape we did before. So you might lift your left leg up any amount. And this time, stepping your left leg back behind you. So coming into high lunge or crescent. And you can choose what you want to do with your arms, right? Maybe you place your hands on your hips. Perhaps you rather lift your arms up. I'm going to keep them down. And you're welcome to stay in stillness, or another option if you want to be more dynamic could be to maybe start to bend and straighten your back knee. You might choose how much you lower or bend that knee. And perhaps allowing what you feel in your body help you choose. And maybe finding that Goldilocks zone, right? That sweet spot. So somewhere in between it feeling good and challenge, right? So where does it feel just right? Woo! And then whenever you're ready, you might release your back heel. So anchoring your back heel and coming into warrior one, right? And from here, you might start to straighten your front knee. And there will be some choices here for this half split or pyramid pose. You're welcome to keep your hands on your hips and maybe folding forward any amount. Another option, perhaps, could be to bring your hands onto the ground, or you might use some blocks or books. So whatever works for you, right? Yoga is awesome because we can make our practice fit our body. We don't have to make our body fit the practice. And maybe just chilling here for another breath or two. And then in your own time, coming back up and into where we were before. So lifting your back heel up. And I'm going to offer this little mini sequence of guided movement, and you're welcome to kind of go along with it with me, or perhaps change some stuff, right? So the invitation is to first bring your hands together at your heart, and then kind of turning towards the right into a twist. And you're welcome to choose how much you twist. Perhaps noticing how is your breath here. So usually when we rotate the spine, the breath could get a little bit more shallow. So just kind of noticing that. And then on your next, breath in and out, coming back to center. And bringing your hands down either onto the ground or maybe onto some blocks if you have them. So coming into a low lunge, maybe in stillness or perhaps finding that rocking. You might invite your hips down as you invite your heart forward. And the next shape is going to be a balance. So you might bring your hands in front of your foot as you step onto your front leg, and some choices. You're welcome to keep your back leg on the mat, or another option could be to explore what it's like to lift your left leg or your back leg up any amount. Coming into half moon, and another layer could be to add your left arm, right? So you're welcome to choose your own adventure here. You could keep your back leg on the ground, maybe playing around with lifting it, maybe playing around with lifting your left arm. So just kind of exploring what feels right for you. And wherever you are, the next invitation is to start to bring your left leg back and to stand up to where we started in flamingo. Woo. And on your next breath in and out, stepping your left leg back, this time into warrior two or virabhadrasana. So inviting your hips and your heart to kind of move towards or turn towards the long edge of the mat. And this is a more traditional shape. And from this shape, the invitation is to find some organic movement or some free movement, right? So one option could be to maybe lift your arms up and back into this kind of reverse warrior, or maybe bringing them forward into side angle. And perhaps coming back and forth. And you're welcome to choose your range of motion. So maybe you want to bring your hand down to the ground, maybe to a block. And another layer you could add here if you want could be to see what it's like to straighten your front leg into more of a triangle shape, right? And maybe somewhere along the way in this exploration, you'll want to pause. So maybe pausing, maybe some part of your body wants some more attention. So giving yourself the opportunity to kind of check in with what you're feeling and maybe letting that guide you. And then whenever you're ready, the invitation is to meet back in downward facing dog. Maybe feeling your inhale. Maybe finishing your exhale. Pausing at any time for some water, which I'm doing right now. And some choices. You could kind of chill in this down dog, or perhaps going through a vinyasa. So if you'd like to move, the invitation is to roll your spine forward. And again, choosing, right? Maybe you want to release your body down in one piece, or knees, chest, and chin. Your choice. And perhaps finding a couple of rolling cobras. So you might inhale as you round and roll your spine up. Exhale as you come down. Maybe rolling up. Coming down. And this time when you come down, maybe pausing and finding crocodile. So making like a pillow with your hands for your head. And the invitation is to just pause in stillness for a couple of moments. And maybe noticing or checking in, right? How are you feeling now? You might sense, notice, or imagine if you could feel your heart beating. Maybe noticing your breath. If you could feel the weight of your body as it's being held up by the supporting surface, the earth, the gravity. And you're welcome to chill here longer. And whenever you're ready, making your way back to downward facing dog. Looking in between your hands, you might step, you might hop, and then kind of rolling all the way up to the top of your mountain, Samasthiti, Tadasana. Maybe finding your center. And perhaps exploring what we just did on the other side. So the invitation is to bring the weight of your body onto your left leg and finding that flamingo shape. So lifting your right leg up any amount. And from here, stepping your right leg back to high lunge. Whew. Choosing what you want to do with your arms. This time I think I'm going to keep my arms up, right? But you're welcome to do something different than what I'm doing, right? This is your practice and you are in charge here. And we all have different bodies that have different needs, and that's what makes us awesome. Yeah, so from here you're welcome to choose, right? Do you want to kind of hang out in stillness, or maybe adding that knee movement? So maybe bending and straightening your back knee. And again, you're welcome to choose the range of motion, right? Like how much do you want to bend your knee, if at all? And maybe letting what you feel help you choose. And then in your own time, letting that go and inviting your back heel to anchor down onto the ground for warrior one. And maybe setting yourself up for that pyramid shape. So straightening your front leg. And again, choosing the version that works for you. So you might bring your hands on your hips and fold forward any amount. You might place your hands on the ground, perhaps using some blocks. Yeah, and just knowing that, bringing my hands to the ground doesn't mean I'm like winning at yoga. To me, winning is like when we could kind of tune in to what we feel in our body and kind of following that, right? Finding that sweet spot, like where does it feel okay? And whenever you feel like this is complete for you, you might kind of make your way back to where we just were, so warrior one. And then lifting your back heel up for high lunge. And like last time, the invitation is to bring your hands at your heart and to twist or turn towards the left. Whew. And you're welcome to choose how much you twist. Maybe noticing your breath and which muscles are kind of working to support you in this balance. Maybe feeling some sensation in your front leg, in your belly, and then kind of coming back towards center and bringing your hands down onto something, either onto the ground or onto blocks. And you're welcome to choose stillness or rocking. And perhaps tuning into like, what is the story of your left leg, right? Does your left leg have a different story than your right? My left leg definitely does. And you're welcome to kind of pause anywhere along the way if you find like some pockets of tension, maybe bringing your awareness there. Maybe sending your breath there. Noticing any thoughts coming and going. And from here, the invitation is to bring your hands in front of your foot somewhere and to step the weight of your body onto your left leg. And so coming into that balance, half moon. So perhaps exploring, lifting your back leg up any amount. Or keeping your foot on the ground, right? That's always an option. And another layer to explore here could be perhaps to lift or to add your right arm. So maybe just noticing, what is that like in your body? Noticing your breath. Maybe noticing the muscles around your jaw and eyes. And then in your own time, guiding your back leg forward and up, back into that flamingo shape that we started in. Woo. Maybe taking an intentional breath or two here. Maybe feeling into that support of your standing leg as it supports you in balance. And then stepping your right leg back into warrior two. So turning your heart towards the long edge of the mat. And again, here, an invitation for some organic movement or some mindful flow, right? So you might begin from this home base of this warrior two to maybe play around with your upper body. So maybe bringing your arms up and forward, over and back, perhaps coming down lower to the ground. So just kind of exploring. And if you don't remember what you did on the right side, that's perfectly okay. I definitely don't remember. But it's an invitation to kind of get curious, like what does this side of my body want, right? What is my left leg feeling? Perhaps adding that layer of straightening your front leg. And you might take the opportunity to kind of pause anywhere along the way. This is your practice, right? So it's an invitation to tune in to what you need, what you want to do. Your body is your greatest teacher. And then whenever you're kind of done with that, coming back to warrior two, and let's meet back in downward facing dog. We're slowly coming towards the end of our practice. And from this down dog, the invitation is to lift your right leg up any amount and then to bring your right knee towards your right hand, coming into pigeon. If this doesn't work for you, another option could be deer, where both of your knees are bent, right? So perhaps you bend just your front leg, or maybe both your legs are bent. It doesn't really matter, right? And the first invitation is to maybe first lift your heart up, maybe opening your wings, and then, if you'd like, maybe coming down for a little nap. Sleeping pigeon. And while you're here, maybe again, starting to notice, right, that surface that your body's on. And if you could feel the support of that surface, maybe noticing if there's any parts of your body that are still kind of like holding on. Maybe just kind of getting curious about that. No need to kind of judge. Just noticing with curious compassion. Maybe noticing the muscles around your forehead and your eyes. The muscles around your neck and shoulders. And when you feel like this is complete for you, you might slowly start to make your way back to downward facing dog. And perhaps doing that on the other side. So whenever you're ready, you might lift your left leg up any amount, bringing your left knee towards your left hand, and either coming down to pigeon or to deer, right? So you get to choose what's right for you. I'm going to go with deer. And then maybe opening your wings and your heart for a moment, and then kind of coming down for a nap. Maybe feeling your inhale. Maybe finishing your exhale. Maybe allowing your breath to kind of flow. So letting go of control of your breath. Maybe letting go of holding your belly in. You might notice your tongue. And then from here, you might stick around a bit longer, or perhaps coming up, this time to seated, and then making your way down onto the mat. And the invitation here is to bring your knees towards your chest for a little self-hug or bija, seed pose. You might find some rocking from side to side. Another thing you could play around with here could be to rock forward and back. So this could be a little bit more playful. And you might explore with how far you bring your legs back, how much you roll up. And then the invitation here is to tune in and to see if there's any kind of movement or shape that you want to do with your body, like before we kind of finish. Something that you feel like you want to do before final rest or shavasana. So taking the opportunity to do that now. I always like to kind of roll around like a dog in the grass. I don't know if you've seen that. Maybe there's a yawn or a sigh or a sound that wants to come out. So you might free your voice, free your breath. And whenever you feel like that's done for you or complete, the invitation is to find how you'd like to finish your practice, right? We have about like 5 minutes, unless you want to continue longer. You're welcome to do that. So you might stay lying down. Maybe you like putting your legs up the wall or some other shape. I'm actually going to sit. And as you make your way to your final resting place, just knowing that you're welcome to explore this rest in stillness, and you could also explore it in movement, right? So you're welcome to continue moving your body if you want. You could close your eyes or keep them open. That's also like your choice, always. And as you make your way into wherever you're going, you might notice if there's anything you could do to make yourself like 1 or 2% more comfortable. And how does that feel when you allow yourself to be comfortable? How does it feel in those places where your body is resting on the surface below you? Maybe that's your back body. Maybe it's your sit bones and the backs of your legs. And can you notice, sense, or imagine the support of that surface kind of holding you up? Maybe scanning your body with curious compassion to check in to see if there's any parts of you that are maybe resisting from settling down. Just knowing that it's perfectly okay, right? Our body has its own wisdom. And if it's supportive to you, you might place a hand on this part of you, this part of your body maybe, and see how it responds. If it's interesting to you, you might start to notice sounds. Maybe noticing the temperature of the air on your skin. Noticing your breath as it moves in and out of your body. You might even notice, how does it feel? Like what parts of your body are moving as you breathe in and out. There's also a possibility you might notice your mind working, thoughts coming and going. They might even take you on an adventure to the past or future. So perhaps just noticing that. There's no need to judge it. And then kind of gently coming back to the present moment, to your body, to your breath, to sensing and feeling, being alive, awakening again and again to the present moment. And I'm going to stop talking for like a minute or so. You're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like. Or if you're ready to kind of come back, you might take a couple of intentional breaths. And starting to kind of feel into the outer edges of your body. Locating yourself in space. Locating yourself like from the distance of the walls, ceiling, floor. And noticing if there's like an impulse to start moving your body. Maybe that's like something smaller, like wiggling toes and fingers. Or maybe there's like a bigger movement that wants to happen, like a stretch a yawn, maybe something different. And if you're lying on the mat, perhaps rolling over to either side if you want. And maybe taking the opportunity one more time to kind of check in with yourself, right? To check in with your inner landscape. Like, how are you doing? Has anything shifted? Knowing that it's all welcome here, right? All of you is welcome here, no matter what you find. And if your eyes are closed, perhaps starting to gently open them and looking around to kind of reorient yourself. Looking around at the colors and shapes and textures and shades. And in your own time, maybe making your way back to a seated shape. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for your practice. The good in me sees the good in you.